Grace, mercy, and peace are yours, given to you by our King, Jesus Christ. A type of something. A lot of times in stories, we have types of characters that point us to something else. The Old Testament does this a lot. A type that points us to coming of Jesus. Moses and David, Noah, Solomon are types of people. Part of what they do and their story and what God has worked through them points us to a bigger fulfillment that Jesus will fully take on. A type that points us to a bigger story and meaning and person. Sometimes when we talk about types, they are anti-types. It is actually the opposite of what they are pointing forward to and what they are teaching us about. Or sometimes they are just a glimpse or a shadow of what is to come. So today I want to tell you a story. And this story is going to be talking about people who are types that point us into our Epiphany text and our Epiphany story for today. The story that I'm going to tell is kind of like a longer analogy or metaphor, but we want to keep in our minds types and what they are teaching us about a bigger picture and story and meaning. The story starts with me in high school. I worked at a one-screen movie theater. And every night I would work for about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours a night. And I made $5.15 an hour. I made minimum wage. I know some of you worked at lower minimum wages than that, but that was the minimum wage when I was working this job in high school. A one-screen movie theater. And we got together, kind of a ragtag group of employees and people from very different backgrounds and generations. And this movie theater was called the Art Theater. I lived in Hobart, Indiana, Art Theater, right downtown on Main Street. I was a junior in high school when this story happened. Every single night when we would show up for work, there was always 4 people who could run the entire one-screen movie theater operation. 4 different people, okay? And I'm going to talk you a little bit about who these people were that happened on this one remarkable night. There was the owner. The owner's name was Mr. Prusecki. Now, Mr. Prusecki was kind of like a stereotype, a modern-day Scrooge. He was in his early 90s. He was always angry and mad, and this guy could pinch a penny like nobody I had ever seen. He was very cheap. Owning a very small one-screen movie theater for decades, 50, 60 years, I guess, will do that to you. Mr. Prusecki always walked around with a grimace on his face. He was always angry, and when he would walk into a room, you'd just get a cold shiver down your spine, and you knew that you had to sit up straight, eyes forward, and everything had to be neat and perfect, and you had to look always very busy. Mr. Prusecki, the mad and angry owner. We would always have then a manager who was kind of would start the movie. It wasn't just on a Blu-ray disc or anything like that. It was actual reels that we were reeling up. The manager would take care of that. He would oversee tickets coming in, oversee the other workers doing this. Our manager for that night name was Mel. Mel was a tall, imposing figure. Had to be at least 6'3", 6'4", weighing maybe 300, 315. A really big, tall, imposing guy. He was Italian with jet black hair, pushed back the whole way. He was middle-aged. I never really understood why Mel worked there because he didn't really like doing any of the work, and I know the pay wasn't too good either. Besides, I think that Mel really, really liked movies. So it made sense that he worked at a movie theater. His favorite thing to do was, after we had gotten everything set up, after everything was good, that he would sit down with his bucket of popcorn and enjoy the movie like he was just another patron who had come in. That was Mel, our lethargic, not so great manager. The person taking tickets that night, her name was Kim. Kim had just graduated high school, so she was about 18, and she recently found out that she was pregnant. Unexpected, unplanned, of course. Kim did not know what her future held. She didn't know what her future held, but at the same time, her mom's story was almost identical to her, who had gotten pregnant right at the end of high school and who would work kind of job to job, just trying to make ends meet, going paycheck to paycheck. Kim was a wonderful human being to be around. She had a huge smile. She loved going to work. She loved being there, and she knew that even this hour-and-a-half job making $5.15 an hour was critical, crucial to this baby to come, to her future, and what was going to happen. Our fourth worker was myself, working the popcorn machines. My biggest controversy, my biggest thing that I had to go over every night was whether I should wear short sleeves and be burned with butter marks all up and down my arms, or whether I should wear long sleeves and sweat so much that I have to keep wiping it away as I'm doing the popcorn. As a junior in high school, this is what I was working on. A little bit of different problems than everybody else. The owner, Mr. Prusecki, our manager, Mel, Kim taking tickets, and a young Tim making some popcorn. This is our scene. One night, something big happened. Kim, who was taking the tickets, was closing up. It was about 7 o'clock and the movie had started. The lights have dimmed. The trailers were starting. Mel was up in the booth. Things were being projected on. Kim was closing up. Now, of course, if you remember, this did not have a cash register. This was all taken by hand, and it was $3 to get into this movie. So Kim was closing up what she did. So she took how many tickets were sold, multiplied it by 3, got a number, and added it to her original amount, which should have come out to a nice even number, right? Does this make sense? You take the number of tickets by how much it costs, add what you started with, and this equals how much money should be left in your drawers. Kim goes back and she's counting, and it's taking a little longer than usual. I'm making sure the Airheads and the Reese's peanut butter cups all look good and everything's accounted for. I'm starting to do my own count. And Kim walks into the lobby. Her face is white. Tears you can almost see welling up in her eyes. And she comes, and Mel is sitting on the stool. I'm putzing around with the candy, and she comes in, and she says, "I'm $20 short." I'm $20 short, guys. Mel hops up off of his stool where he was taking tickets, and he goes in the back and he's counting and he double counts it, and he comes up with the same conclusion. We're $20 short. Mr. Prusecki, the owner, comes in, and he's wondering why he hasn't been given the money and the form and the tickets yet. And he comes in, and Kim and Mel look him in the eyes, and they have to tell him, we're $20 short. Guys, I can't express to you how upset and angry Mr. Prusecki gets at that moment. He starts yelling. He starts saying words that your preacher's not going to say this morning. He starts calling everybody every name, and he is livid. He also gets a different little cur on him, and he starts acting paranoid. He says that Kim has been stealing from him for weeks. That Mel is in on it. And even that popcorn guy who's doing popcorn, I don't even know his name, might even be in on it too. You guys are stealing from me, and if I don't get that $20 tonight, Kim is gone. And it wouldn't look good on Mel or the popcorn guy either. He storms off. He has an office next door. He storms off, and we are just racking our brains, trying to figure out what we could do, short of going up to people who are already enjoying the previews and asking them if we have given them too much money. We start to go and think. Mel is being kind to Kim. He's trying to say encouraging words, trying to say that we can figure this out. It's at this moment that even a movie couldn't write it like this, that another manager walks in the door. This manager's name is Anthony. Anthony was not on duty that night. Now, Anthony was probably young 30s, but it seems like he had worked there his entire life. Anthony was the most beloved manager. He was the antitype. He was the antithesis to Mel. He was always there to help and to work hard and to do anything ever. Anthony worked at a grocery store during the day bagging groceries, and the main reason he took that job was because he didn't want anything to conflict with his time at the movie theater. In every sense of this word, Anthony loved that movie theater. He put his whole self into it. And because of that, all the employees, tickets and concessions loved him. All the other managers knew that they could lean on him. Mr. Prusecki could even appreciate him and value him because he knew that he was getting a good price for the amount of work that he was getting out of Anthony as well. Anthony walks in, and everybody has a sigh of relief that he can help, that he'll know what to do. Anthony goes in the back and he does his count, and he does it twice again, and he comes up with the same thing that Kim came up with. He comes up with the same number that Mel comes up with. We're $20 short. But here's what Anthony did. Anthony took out his wallet, took a crisp $20 bill that he had gotten from his grocery store job, and he put it in the bag. And he said that we're square. We're good. He protected all of us. He protected Kim's job, a person who needed this job so bad, who didn't have $20 to spare. He protected and stepped up where Mel wouldn't even think to do. He appeased an angry and mad owner. And he taught me, the popcorn guy, a little bit about grace. Anthony didn't put that $20 bill in because anybody asked him to or because he had to, but he did it out of his own love for all of us. Kim was so relieved. I'll always remember her face. She was so relieved that she was almost in tears, happy tears this time. Mel couldn't believe it. He hadn't even thought to do that. And after this, Mel is changed. He steps up more. He's more of a team player. He wants to help and encourage other people. Me, I have a renewed sense of trying to help and encourage one another, all because that $20 bill was paid. That grace was given, that everything was square. Today is Epiphany Sunday, a familiar text of Matthew chapter 2. We have some characters, some types in this story. King Herod, the Magi, or we call them wise men sometimes, Mary, and Jesus. Our text begins with, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, 'Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him.' Now Herod the king heard this, and he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. Herod the king, a mad and angry king who is paranoid about his role, who is trying desperately to control other people, who would stop at nothing, even killing innocent babies, to protect his power. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly and ascertained from them when the star had appeared. And when he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, 'Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him.' After listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy." The Magi, or wise men. We actually don't know too much about these people. We don't know too much, and what we do know, some of it we're pretty sure is actually inaccurate. These people were not wise, as we call them. They were not kings. There's no indication even that there were even three of them besides the three gifts that they're given. It would be more accurate to describe these magi as pagan fools. They were sorcerers, astrologers, practitioners of the dark arts. These were the last people that you would expect to go and search for Jesus and to bow down and worship him. They were the last people you would ever expect to change. But they became a great witness to Jesus. In our text, verse 11, "And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh." They come and they find Mary, a young mother who did not expect to be pregnant, but who was saved and spared. Mary is in awe, yet again, of how others are caring for and protecting her. How others are coming and worshiping the child Jesus. Verse 12. "And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way." God tells them, do not go back to Herod and tell him about this child, but instead go home a different way. God is in control. He's in control of this story. He is in control of our lives. He is in control of this world still. At every step of this story, every step of this epiphany story that we have, it comes off, it jumps off the page that God is working, orchestrating, planning, directing. And he still does today. Psalm 46, "God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble." God comes to us in our weakness, in our sin, saves us, and protects us. He is the one worthy of our praise. God is the one who has sent his own Son, Jesus Christ, into our world to die for our sins on our behalf. The God who comes near and he gives his love and his protection. God is our King in this world and the next. Notice in our story how Herod the king tries so hard to protect his power and his title, and he won't stop at anything that gets in the way. But that Jesus is the true King. that they will write King of the Jews above his head as he is hanging on a cross. He is given the title that Herod could never keep. At our movie theater, notice how that manager who came in was the one that we actually followed. When Anthony would speak a word of direction or guidance or even an order, it was always listened to. When the angry and mad, paranoid leader would speak, it would fall on deaf ears. It wasn't even registered. But the leader who comes near and loves, who looks out for others, who sacrifices, who protects everybody else, well, that's a picture of Christ. Christ is the one who gives of himself on our behalf, not counting the cost first, but giving himself freely for each and every person in this world. God comes as our ultimate King, the King of this world and the next. Epiphany is a time and a celebration then that we talk about how God has come for all people. He comes to kings, to pagan fools, to new parents, to Gentiles, to Jews, to young and old, to every race and nation, to big cities and small cities, to movie theaters, to Holly Hills, to small churches, to big churches, to pastors, to lay people, to organists, to seminarians, to people who are struggling with illness, people who are struggling with doubt and fear and despair. God comes to us all. Epiphany, God the King for us. Let us bring our gifts then to this King who is in control, the King who has given everything for us. Amen.